I gotta say, over the past few weeks, Bethesda has actually been surprising me. A couple of weeks ago now, we got an initial batch of some Wastelanders teasers. Today, we're going to be going over some more that I had no idea were coming and kind of came out of left field. But also just recently, on several occasions, they listened to some community feedback, making changes to the length of the holiday event and even making certain gifts easier to find. And we even got an update on the Steam release of the game, so definitely some credit to them. They have been fairly active even among some of these other problems that the game has been facing. But either way, in this video, as many of you can probably guess, we're going to be going over all of the new Wastelander teasers that have been revealed. There's actually a lot to unpack from these. It confirms some things about the game that we otherwise weren't super sure on. Also, it does tie in with previous leaks we have heard around Wastelander, so it's a good time to look back at some of those. If you enjoy the content or just want to stay up to date with Fallout 76, you can leave a like or subscribe. Although it seems like there won't be a ton more coming from this game, as even with this most recent tease, Bethesda does confirm this will be the last Inside the Vault article of 2019. So it does look like this time around it actually is the end, at least until 2020. This past Thanksgiving, we actually got quite a big dump of Wastelander screenshots, that revealing to us several new or changed locations, but otherwise didn't really share a lot in the way of details. It was more inferential from the images. This time around, there still is quite a bit to infer from these images, but Bethesda themselves shares quite a bit more about what we can expect with this upcoming DLC. This is the first image that was shared, and Bethesda basically describes here, after Wastelanders does drop for Fallout 76, there will now be these two new NPCs standing outside of Vault 76, that being Lacey and Isella. They're described as being curious settlers on the hunt for answers to questions that brought them to Appalachia in the first place, and might be able to help newer players on their journey. In exchange for your answers, they will also lead you toward the Wayward. And in the background of this one, you can see a sign for the Wayward described as opening soon. This is going to be a bar that also seems to have some rooms and refugee for those traveling throughout the region. One of the things to immediately jump out to me from this is, one, Appalachia is going to look pretty much the same. If you compare this screenshot you see in the background to this one I took from Fallout 76 right now, all of the foliage will remain almost identical. But even further, I will be pretty curious to see how interactions with these NPCs will work. These two NPCs are not an instance location, they're just out in the wild somewhere. So if me and my entire squad of friends walks up to these, will we have to take turns talking to them? We know at some of the interior locations, it won't work that way. You could talk to people at the same time, but for people like this, who are just out there in the open, I do wonder whether that will be different. But then separately, we move over to the Wayward, which is actually a location that we've heard quite a bit about thus far. This is going to be a totally new location, and funny enough, it actually is right across the street from the Overseer's camp. So very similar to how in the base game, you start off with that little introductory phase in the vault, then work your way down to the Overseer's camp. With Wastelanders, you'll talk to these two NPCs, get introduced to these changes, then work your way to across the street from the Overseer's camp. This will be a new instance location where inside you do meet the two new NPCs we have seen in the past, that with Duchess and Mort. It's described how Duchess actually built the Wayward outside of Appalachia, but then brought it here to create this welcoming location for people to go into. If you look back at the design of it, it looks like it's basically a trailer, kind of like an RV camper style thing that is double stacked. Duchess is the owner of this, and it's basically described how over the past few months, there's been a string of visitors stopping in that are asking some very pointed questions and acting pretty aggressively. And it'll be our role to figure out what exactly is going on here and what they are after. The Wayward is basically going to be a bar or tavern, so it would be kind of cool if we see an expansion of the brewing system in Fallout 76 with this update. And Mort is just a bar frequent who has yet to pay back his tab, so likely an alcoholic of some sort. But he's also described as having a knack for exploring and figuring out how camps worked. So if you ever need a bit of insight into the surrounding area or a refresher on camps, Mort is your ghoul. I don't totally know what that means. Maybe it's just kind of a tutorial-esque scenario for players that are totally new to Fallout 76 coming for this update. Kind of a replacement of that initial camp we see with the Overseer's camp. Again, drawing some of those parallels, but this really does make it seem like it is intended for totally new players to this game. And one final image we do get from this is actually again at Spruce Knob. We saw this last time, which was described as being Spruce Knob, which is now controlled by the Foundation settlers. We see this image again, which you can identify as Spruce Knob due to that green tower in the background. It is very notable, but also pretty notable. It looks like this is a quite comprehensive change to the above ground part of Spruce Knob. Like take for example this as it looks in game right now compared to the screenshot, which I tried to line up almost perfectly, but even just in general, there is not this much going on here. It is a rather forgettable location in Fallout 76 right now, but after this update, one, it looks like it'll be pretty different on the top end, but also have a sprawling and fairly large underground area to explore also. But one of the curious parts about this will be how it all ties together. If I didn't know better, I would think this is the main base for the settlers, specifically the Foundation settlers, again as they were previously described. Although in one of the past teasers, this image of Anchor Farm was listed as Foundation, which makes it seem like this is the base of the settlers. Also the fact that it is so prominently displayed in the trailer. Maybe there was just a change internally, they decided to move the base to this other rather cool location while Anchor Farm's kind of boring. Or conversely, maybe these are just two separate bases, but they actually are fairly far apart on the map. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this ends up fitting together. Perhaps there actually are several different factions as far as even just the settlers go. But one of the other pretty cool parts about this is these outfits, although looking fairly forgettable at first glance, actually are from that concept art we saw all the way back at QuakeCon. It's definitely nice to see some of that start getting implemented, but separately I'd love to see some of the other concept art also. That stuff in particular looked really cool. But to end things off in this section, Bethesda also describes how their goal with Wastelanders isn't just to add NPCs to the game, but also to help Appalachia feel much more alive now that people are making their way back into the area. You will not only encounter new faces during the main story, but throughout the game in new encounters, in combat encampments, and even as they go about their daily lives, with the overall goal of making this world feel a lot more lived in and lively. So all around, this seems pretty cool. One of the things I am pretty curious about with Wastelanders is its scale and also how big of an impact it'll have on the map. In the past, we've seen how several locations are getting pretty comprehensive overhauls. They will now feel and look totally different. But I also do have questions around how often this will be occurring. Are we getting a look at like half of them? Are these all of the settler bases? Or is this really just a small glimpse at what's to come? Either way, I think the way they're adding in some of these new locations, but also repurposing and taking full advantage of past ones that otherwise were kind of dull, is actually a really good execution here. I'm happy they're not fully committing to one or the other. But also, we hear some updates about Fallout 76 coming to Steam. It was announced earlier this year that Fallout 76, among with several other Bethesda games, would get a Steam launch, ending its timed exclusivity with Bethesda.net, but today Bethesda officially did delay that. They don't actually really give a reason, they just say our launch on Steam is still on the way, but we're moving it closer to Wastelanders release in 2020. We don't have additional details to share on this right now. So the logical conclusion is that Bethesda wants the Steam release to coincide with the Wastelanders release, have kind of a big secondary push for this game. I imagine they're trying to get a lot of people that passed on it or quit the game to get interested in it again, and releasing the game on a totally new platform to a potentially new audience is a great way to do that. Although, and some of you guys have already started reaching out to me about this delay in release style was actually something that leaked in the past. There are a bunch of leaks around Fallout 76 posted by somebody named MMOG Fails on his blog. I'll have a link to this down below. And back on October 30th, he did say Fallout 76 will be missing its 2019 Steam debut, which is supposed to occur with the launch of Wastelanders. It is still coming to the platform and will launch alongside or shortly after Wastelanders, which now, if you look at the more updated version from Bethesda, is actually 100% true. It exactly predicted what they said. Now, I've definitely been pretty iffy about this blog in the past, and actually in the present, I still am kind of unsure or very skeptical. This is something he was pretty much spot on about, but it's also something kind of easy to predict. It would make sense to bring a major feature like Steam release at the same time as a major catalyst like Wastelanders release. He hasn't really posted anything over the past couple of weeks, but there's some from earlier in December and late November as far as responses to comments. I saw a lot of interest in this, especially as of late with this apparent correct prediction. Now I would just say be cautious with this, as you should be with all leaks. There's some stuff in there that has definitely been wrong and other things that definitely have been correct. Although he did mention that apparently there's an influencers event for Wastelanders, which I haven't gotten an invite to, but that would be cool. But I also may just not get invited. Although one of the final things Bethesda shares in this article is that they're doing another mystery pick event at the Purveyor. This will be starting on Thursday, December 24th, so next week. And basically the way it'll work is you will have the mystery pick option yet again. So for 60 script, you can get a random 3-star legendary. You don't know if you're going to get an armor, weapon, weapon or a ranged/melee weapon, it'll be good or bad, so it is gambling to a more extreme degree than usual, but you also can get a very good weapon at a discounted price. This is actually their second attempt at it, so hopefully this time it actually does go flawlessly. I assume it will, considering they're making it go live on Christmas Eve, and there probably won't be people around to fix it if it does break, but otherwise, yeah, outside of Atomic Shop updates, that seemingly will be the end of Fallout 76 for 2019. But also likely to be the end of my coverage of it on this channel. I got a few other videos planned for Skyrim and actually for Fallout 4 and Fallout New Vegas, something pretty special and unique on that one. But otherwise, yeah, I actually think, although there was quite a few issues around the game over the past few months, Bethesda in the very last stretch of 2019 are ending things off fairly strong. We got some really cool Wastelanders teases, they actually listened to the community a few times now, implementing changes that were highly requested, and even a fairly quick turnaround about addressing this recent hacker problem, which still needs to be addressed further, but them reacting so quickly is something I feel like they definitely wouldn't have done in the past. There's still a lot to do with Fallout 76 in 2020. Take for example this bug I just got while playing the game. I actually had a very buggy experience overall with the game, and there's a lot of updates needed around that, actually fixing some of the lingering hacking problems, trying to get server stability sorted out, and even just the management side of things with Fallout First, but even that has been relatively quiet as of late. Either way, as always, again, I thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, but with that, I hope to see you all next time. Later.